The 2023-2024 free agent class of Major League Baseball is probably the weakest we've seen in quite some time. And that's why in today's video, we're going to play general manager and we're going to focus on some players who could be traded pretty soon. And no, I do not think that Pete Alonso is going to get traded, so I wanted to get that out the way real quick. So without further ado, here are 10 players that I think could get traded before the beginning of the 2024 MLB season. Now, we do have an honorable mention because I don't even know if Austin Meadows is going to be playing in 2024, but if he does, the Tigers don't really have room for him because his brother, Parker Meadows, he seems like he's going to be a stud. They traded for Mark Canada. They have Akil Baddoo, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter. There's just not any more room for Austin Meadows if he does come back, and I hope that he does because he's struggling with anxiety and some other things off the field, so I hope that he gets right. The first player that I for sure think is going to get traded is Corbin Burnes of the Milwaukee Brewers. He's won a Cy Young. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last few seasons, but the reason why I think there's a 70% chance that he's going to get traded, one, he's going to be a free agent pretty soon, and number two, the Brewers and Corbin Burnes, they don't really see eye to eye in terms of Corbin Burnes' worth. A couple years ago, they had a nasty arbitration case where the Brewers, they basically looked Corbin Burnes dead in the face from across the table, and they said that Corbin Burnes cost them a chance at the playoffs because he did not have the best second half, and Corbin Burnes, of course, he took exception to that, and I don't think that he's going to be on the team for a whole lot longer. Bieber, no, not Justin. Shane Bieber is probably going to get traded, at least to me, a Guardians fan. I think there's an 80% chance that Shane Bieber is going to get moved, and the reason is pretty simple. Cleveland is a pitching factory. They didn't have Tristan McKenzie or Shane Bieber for the majority of the 2023 season, but that's okay because Tanner Bybee stepped up. He just finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting. They have Gavin Williams, who is a stud, Logan T. Allen, Daniel Espino, Joey Cantillo, all of these different studs that are coming up. So Shane Bieber, he could be moved for some bats, and I think that's what they're going to do. And also, I hate to admit it, but Shane Bieber is the biggest sticky merchant I've ever seen. A few years ago, they banned the sticky stuff. You can no longer use spider tack or anything like that, and his strikeout numbers have fallen off a cliff. The best shortstop in baseball is 100% going to get traded pretty soon, and I guess I should kind of clarify that by saying the best shortstop from the first month of last season is going to get traded, Jorge Mateo. The Baltimore Orioles, they simply don't have room for this guy anymore. But again, I do want to just go ahead and reiterate that Jorge Mateo, for the first month of the 2023 season, he was the best player in baseball, not just the best shortstop. He had 6 home runs and 10 stolen bases in 1 month while hitting .350 with a 1062 OPS. So the talent is for sure there, but when he's in a slump, he's probably the worst player in baseball. And the fact that the Orioles have Gunnar Henderson and every other prospect that you can think of for an infielder, yeah, there's just no more room for Jorge Mateo. Now let's talk about one more infielder named Jorge, and that is Jorge Polanco of the Minnesota Twins. Jorge Polanco, he's a bit more consistent, so I feel like his value is going to be a whole lot higher. Now, one thing about Polanco that kind of sucks is he's usually pretty injury prone. He's only played 150 plus games twice in his entire 10-year career, but I will say when he's healthy, he's pretty dang good. Over his last 3 seasons, he's averaging 112 games played with 23 doubles, 21 home runs, and a 120 OPS plus. As a switch-hitting infielder, you can't really find that production very often. To me, this is a coin flip. I feel like there's a 50-50 chance of Polanco getting shipped by the Twins because they do have some other young studs coming up like Brooks Lee. I think that he's going to be solid as well. They have Carlos Correa, they have Royce Lewis. So Jorge Polanco, an aging kind of former star, will he get flipped? Maybe. Do you guys remember how insane Tyler O'Neill was in 2021? Let me just go ahead and remind you, just in case you forgot. He had 34 home runs, 15 stolen bases, while almost hitting .290. He had a 148 OPS plus and won a Gold Glove. He was one of the best 5-tool stars in baseball. But fast forward to 2023, he's missed a bunch of games over the last few seasons, and he has a combined 97 OPS plus since that point, so he's not been very good. However, we can say the same thing about Cody Bellinger, and look at him turning his entire career around in 2023. To me, the perfect trade is the Cardinals get Shane Bieber and the Guardians get Tyler O'Neill. I believe that Shane Bieber and Tyler O'Neill are both free agents in 2025, so it might just be an even swap and a win-win trade. Let me know what you guys think of that. So because we talked about 2 different Jorges, let's talk about a second Tyler, and that is Tyler Glasnow of the Tampa Bay Rays. To me, there's an 80% chance that he gets traded. When Tyler Glasnow is on his game and healthy, he is one of the nastiest pitchers I've ever seen. From June 25th to September 6th of last year, that's 12 different starts, he combined for 101 strikeouts in just 74 innings. He had a 2.3 ERA and a 2.06 FIP. I like Tyler Glasnow a lot because he made me a better content creator. I didn't really care about advanced stats until people started telling me that Glasnow was better than his ERA suggested. And now that I know what FIP is and ERA plus and all those different stats are, yeah, Glasnow, he shreds. Unfortunately, because the Tampa Bay Rays are a smaller market, there's absolutely no way that they can afford the services of Tyler Glasnow, so they're going to flip him and probably get a superstar in return because that's what the Rays do. They use their voodoo magic to steal players from other teams. And trust me, as a Guardians fan, listen to what I'm saying. Otherwise, you're going to be losing out on Yandy Diaz or Junior Caminero. Now let's go ahead and talk about a few lefty hitters, and I feel like you guys know where this is going, but let's talk about Alex Verdugo because right now, the Boston Red Sox, they might not have room for him in 2024. But Fuzzy, what do you mean that the Red Sox won't have room for one of their better players from a season ago? Let me try and explain the situation of the Boston Red Sox after 2024. So Verdugo, he's going to be a free agent after the next season. And the thing about the Red Sox, they have a lot of talent coming up in the farm system like Cedar Rafaela. We saw some of his talent come to light in 2023. They also have a young stud in the making of Marcelo Mayers. So to me, Rafaela, he's going to be pushed back to the outfield. You're not going to move Jarren Duran because he looked like a budding superstar. You have Masataka Yoshida. So for me, Verdugo, because he's a free agent after 2024, you might as well flip him because he's not going to be on your roster in 2025. You simply don't have room for him. I'm going to actually go out on a limb. I'm going to say there's a 90% chance that Alex Verdugo gets traded before the All-Star break of 2024. If you're a Yankees fan, I'm not sure if you've been naughty or nice this year, but if you've made a list for Santa, Juan Soto better be at the very tippy top of your list. We can all universally agree that last season was a season from hell for the Yankees fan base. Carlos Rodon, he was a shell of himself because he had that injured shoulder. Frankie Montas, he didn't even really sniff the field. Luis Severino, he was awful. Domingo Germán, he's an awful human. We saw Nestor Cortez regress because of injuries as well. The only guy that really performed was Garrett Cole, and at the very end of the season, Michael King, who was one of their best relievers. But even with all those injuries and regression, guys like Michael King and Clark Schmidt, they kind of righted the ship and they held it down. The biggest problem with the 2023 Yankees was their lineup. It was awful. Joey Gallo, Andrew Benintendi, Oswaldo Cabrera, Everson Pereira, you name it, they haven't really found an everyday left fielder, and Juan Soto, he would fix that problem in the blink of an eye. He's one of the best players in baseball, and if you don't think so, you don't know ball. Did you guys know that Juan Soto is the only player in MLB history to have 600 walks through their age 24 season? Oh, one more thing, he's also one of 15 players ever to have 145 plus home runs by their age 24 season. 9 of the 15 are in the Hall of Fame already, with the others being Pujols, A-Rod, Harper, Stanton, Andrew Jones, and Juan Soto. So all 15 could end up in the Hall of Fame if they forgive A-Rod. And also if Giancarlo Stanton stops being terrible, but that's a different story for a different day. The GM of the Padres, AJ Preller, he was allowed to be a madman courtesy of their owner, Peter Seidler. And also I just want to mention, rest in peace, Peter Seidler. He was a gem of a human. The game of baseball and just the world in general is going to miss him dearly. But AJ Preller is not stupid. I don't believe that he's going to pull an Angels and keep Shohei Ohtani and risk it for the biscuit and then lose him for practically nothing. Yes, the Angels are going to get a compensation pick because Ohtani just rejected the qualifying offer, but instead of moving Ohtani at the deadline for a plethora of prospects and everyday players, they're only getting a pick. Hopefully they get a superstar in the draft, but they can't really guarantee that as opposed to trying to guarantee everyday players. So to me, the Padres are going to take a different approach, and I feel like there's an 80% chance that Juan Soto is going to get traded. We've talked about 2 different Jorges, 2 different Tylers. Let's talk about 2 different John or Jonathans. We'll talk about John Gray first and then another John/Jonathan in just a moment. John Gray, they call him the Gray Wolf. I did not come up with that nickname, by the way, but this dude is getting paid a lot of money, $15 million, to not be very good as a starting pitcher. Last season, he had a 4+ ERA, a 4.4 FIP, which is not very good. Now, luckily for John Gray, he really showed out in the playoffs. He threw 7 innings as a relief pitcher, emphasis on relief pitcher, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts. He was really, really good, but because he was demoted to the bullpen when they needed him most, I just don't know if they have room for him unless they do lose Jordan Montgomery. I mean, even if you do lose Jordan Montgomery, your rotation's probably going to be Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney, and then Dane Dunning. That's 5 studs right there, and they have some other guys like former 1st or 2nd overall pick Jack Leiter. They just don't have room for John Gray. It's as simple as that, and they could get some pieces in return for him. Jonathan India is 100% going to get traded by the Reds. Now, that's just my opinion, but I feel like there's some pretty solid evidence behind him being traded because we all know that Elly De La Cruz, he's not going anywhere. Matt McClain, he might be the best second baseman in the National League going into 2024, or maybe he's their starting shortstop. I have no idea how that's going to work. Elly De La Cruz, he's good, but Matt McClain's better in my opinion. Like, McClain's him. But because McClain is him, I don't exactly know what they're going to do with Jonathan India, who is one of the worst defensive infielders I've ever seen, and you would think that he'd be better, kind of like Bo Bichette. 2 really good athletes, but they kind of have bricks for hands. India won the Rookie of the Year a few seasons ago. Last year, he put up a 340 on base percentage with 17 home home runs and 14 stolen bases, so that's pretty good production, and he's signed through 2027. So when you can basically pencil in a 27-year-old for 20 home runs and 15 stolen bases, a lot of teams are going to be interested, and because the Reds have so many up-and-coming prospects like MLB Marte, Christian Encarnacion Strand, yes, they're going to be losing Joey Votto, but I don't believe India is going to be playing first base. Spencer Steer's really good. They just don't have room for Jonathan India, and that's the problem for a lot of players in today's video. Teams are moving on. In the comments down below, give me some players I did not mention that you think are going to get traded, but that does it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one.